Okay, so here are a few select problems from your Worksheet 5 homework assignment. So I'm going to start with question 3. So when I'm looking at question 3, I'm trying to find what is common. So this has already had the first step of factoring done. So I'm going to look at the first group here and compare it with the second group. And I see that they both have an x minus 7 common. So x minus 7 is my common factor. And then my remaining terms are x squared minus 4. So because this has a squared term in it, that means I should be able to factor it one more time. I have a difference of squares. So I still have x minus 7. And then x squared minus 4 factors to x plus 2 and x minus 2. Okay. And then let's take a look at question number 5. So I'm going to look at my first and my second, and I see that they almost have the same thing, but I have x minus 2 here versus 2 minus x. So these are opposites of each other. So that means I'm going to factor a negative out of here. So when I pull a negative out, that's going to turn to addition, and then this will become the opposite, so x minus 2. And so now when I look at my first group with my second group, I can see that they both have x minus 2 common. So then my remaining terms are 3x, and then there's an implied 1 here, so 3x plus 1. So there's no squared terms in either of those factors, so that is my answer. Okay, and then let's take a look at question number 11. So this one didn't have a pre-factor step, so I have to do that for myself. So I'm going to look at my first pair and my second pair, and I have to factor something out of both of these. So I can see that both are divisible by 2 and also x squared. So 2x squared is common. So when I divide 2x squared out of here, I'm left with x. When I divide 2x squared out of here, I'm left with negative 5. And then in my second pair, both are divisible by 2. I'm going to use that negative as well, because I know I need to get that to be a minus. So I'm going to divide out the negative 2. So negative 2x divided by negative 2 is positive x. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. So that's just the first step. And so now when I look at my first and my second grouping, I see they both have an x minus 5 common. And then my remaining terms are 2x squared and minus 2. So my second factor, I have a 2 I can pull out. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a 2 all the way out to the front. So divided by 2. And divided by 2. And then I still have a squared term, so that means I can factor one more time. That's a difference of squares, x plus 1 and x minus 1. Okay. Alright, and then I'm going to go to the back side here. And then let's take a look at question number 17. So the directions are to factor and sketch the polynomial functions and then label the x and y intercepts. So I want to look at, I have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So that means I need to do factor by grouping. So I'm going to group my first 2 and my second 2. And I look to see what I can divide out of both of those, and I can divide an x squared out. So x cubed divided by x squared is x. 4x squared divided by x squared is 4. And then I look at the next 2 terms, and I see what I can divide out of that, and I can divide both by negative 4. So negative 4x divided by negative 4 is positive x. Negative 16 divided by negative 4 is positive 4. And then once I get to here, I look to see what does that first group have common with that second group. They both have an x plus 4 common. and then my remaining terms are x squared minus 4. And then I have a difference of squares, so I'm going to factor that. I'm going to bring my y equals from the beginning with me now. So that would be x plus 4, and then x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay. So now I'm going to graph it. So in order to graph it, I need to find my y-intercept and my x-intercepts, and I need to know my degree. So I know I'm just going to look at my degree first since I have it kind of handy here. So I have a degree of a degree of 3, because my highest degree term is 1x cubed. So because of that, I know a cubic has in behavior going in opposite directions, and it's positive, so it's going to start low and then go high. So that's what my basic graph is going to be. I have no bounces, so that makes it easy. So I'm going to go ahead and graph my x-intercepts. So my x-intercepts, remember, when I let each of these equal to 0. So for my x-intercepts, I have when x plus 4 is equal to 0, that would be at negative 4. X plus 2 equals 0 at negative 2. And then x minus 2 equals 0 at 2. So those are my x-intercepts, my zeros, my roots, all the same thing. So there's my roots marked and labeled. And then for my y-intercept, I'm going to let x equal 0. So anywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with 0. So this will be 0 plus 4 times 0 plus 2 times 0 minus 2. So that would be 8 times negative 2, or negative 16. And then now I have to connect those 4 dots and still take the basic shape of start low and then go high. So it's going to do something like that. And there's number 17. Okay, and then let's do one more. Let's do number 20. So for this one right here, a couple different ways I can do this is it is factor by grouping because I have 4 terms, but one of the things that I haven't talked a lot about is looking for your common factor first. So we have been doing common factors, but we don't always do it first with our factor by grouping. So if I look here, all of these are divisible by 4, and all of these have an x common. So I'm going to do factor by common factor first. So I'm going to divide everything by a 4x before I try to do anything else. So when I divide this by a 4x, I'm left with x to the 3rd. When I divide that by a 4, so 8 divided by 4 is 2, and I'm taking one of the x's out, so leaving 2 behind. Negative 16 divided by 4, and then 2 x's, pulling 1 out, and then negative 32 divided by 4, and I'm taking the x out. Okay, so that's just common factor. So now I have still 4 terms, so I'm going to do factor by grouping. So I can pull an x squared out of both of those. So x cubed divided by x squared, 2x squared divided by x squared. I can divide a negative 4 out of both of those. So negative 4x divided by negative 4, and negative 8 divided by negative 4. So I still have a 4x. My common factor is x plus 2. And my remaining terms are x squared minus 4. So I have a difference of squares, so I can factor this one more time. And then since I have two factors that are the same, I want to rewrite it as a squared term. Okay. So that's my fully factored equation, so now I'm ready to graph it. So I'm going to do my x-intercepts. I'm going to do it off to the side here. So I have three factors here. So I have to use the 4x because there's an x involved. So that would be 4x equal to 0. So then divide by 4. So I have one x-intercept at 0. And then I have x plus 2 squared. So my other factor is just x plus 2. You don't need to have the squared, right? And then that just tells me my multiplicity. So then another x-intercept at -2. And then that will be a bounce. I'm going to put a b because it has a multiplicity of 2, power of 2. And then finally my third one is x minus 2. So x equals positive 2 is my last x-intercept. And then to find my y-intercept, I don't need to actually find y-intercept because this is both an x and a y-intercept since it's at the origin. But if I wanted to, I can replace x with 0, but I'm going to get 4 times 0, and then 0 times, regardless of what this is, will still be 0. So I'm not going to worry about my y-intercept because it's already found through finding my x-intercepts. Then I look back at my original problem. So I have a degree of 4, that's positive, so it's a quartic. So that means my basic shape is a W, right? Basic shape is a W. And I know that my bounce has to occur at a max or a min. So in this case, it will be at the minimum. So I already know that the graph has to do this. And then I just need to draw the rest of it, so it goes through these points here as well. So it needs to come back down through the origin and then back up through the last x-intercept. And that's worksheet 5.